The hum of the training facility was constant, a steady vibration that seemed to go through the floors, the walls, and even the bones of the cadets who walked through it. Humanity's space academy on Earth was known across the galaxy, not for the harshness of its training or the power of its weapons, but for the way it made its cadets think, adapt, and grow. It was different from other academies, where strength and speed were often considered the greatest virtues. Here, the emphasis was on ingenuity, focus, and the ability to use what you had in the most creative way. Lieutenant Arya Kellen had arrived at the academy just that morning. She stepped off the transport shuttle, her boots making soft echoes on the polished floor. The other cadets were already there, a bustling mix of species from distant planets, each with unique shapes, colors, and ways of moving. Some had 6 arms, some had no legs and floated with gentle levitation, while others were covered in scales or feathers. The diversity was breathtaking, and for many of these cadets, Earth training looked like it would be too simple. Almost insulting. Arya was human. Her features were ordinary by Earth standards. Brown hair, steady eyes, and a calm presence that drew attention without her trying. She didn't carry herself with arrogance, nor did she boast about her abilities. Instead, she observed, taking in every detail. She noticed the confident way a tall, silver-skinned alien twirled energy streams around his fingers and the nervous, hopping motions of a smaller creature whose eyes seemed to absorb every movement in the room. As she walked toward the main hall, she overheard them talking. Earth training? Huh, I've trained in zero-gravity combat. This is going to be a joke, one cadet said, his voice echoing off the walls. Yeah, another added. Nothing here can challenge me. They probably just make you run laps or something. Arya smiled faintly but said nothing. She had learned long ago that words were cheap. Actions, however, were worth everything. The hall was vast, filled with floating panels, holographic consoles, and a large arena at its center. The arena's floor was remarkable. It wasn't solid but made of adjustable energy tiles that could shift, rise, or fall based on the instructor's settings. A human instructor, tall and composed, approached the cadets. Welcome, he said. His voice was calm but carried authority. Many of you have trained in extreme environments. Many of you believe Earth training is easy, but what you call easy is not the goal here. Observation, coordination, creativity, and focus are what this academy tests. Ignore that at your peril. The cadets exchanged smirks and whispers, already planning to show off. Arya stayed quiet, watching the floor. She noticed tiny energy currents under the tiles, a pattern invisible to most, but clear to her trained eyes. She recognized the subtle rhythm of the floor, the way it could be influenced with small, precise motions. The first drill began. Cadets were instructed to step onto the arena floor and manipulate the panels using their personal energy or strength. The goal was simple on paper. Move a series of platforms to create a stable path from one end to the other without triggering any alarms. In reality, it was far more complex. The floor reacted differently to each cadet, amplifying mistakes, rewarding creativity, and testing patience. The aliens were eager to prove themselves. They leapt onto the panels, using brute force or flashy energy displays to try to control the tiles. Some succeeded briefly but lost control as the floor shifted unpredictably. Others stumbled, their confidence slipping as they realized that strength alone could not solve this challenge. Arya stepped forward slowly, carefully. She didn't rush, didn't leap, didn't push. She placed one foot on a panel, feeling the energy beneath it. She extended her hands slightly, letting her focus spread through her body and into the floor. The tiles responded not violently, not with sudden motion, but with gentle acknowledgement. She walked, turned, and adjusted. Each step precise, each movement deliberate. The other cadets paused to watch. Some whispered in disbelief. How is she doing that? She's just walking, said one of the taller aliens, frowning. It's like the floor knows her. Arya reached a tricky section where the panels formed an uneven pattern. The other cadets had struggled here, some falling or triggering alarms that sent mild shocks. Arya didn't hesitate. She focused her energy, directing a subtle pulse into the floor. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a line of tiles shifted under her feet. The panels aligned perfectly, forming a stable path. Her movement was graceful, deliberate, almost like dancing but with precision and power hidden beneath calmness. Then she did something unexpected. She stepped onto a central tile and extended her hands outward. A ripple of energy spread from her fingertips. The other cadets gasped as the ripple traveled across the floor, the panels splitting and reforming in a controlled wave. The fissure that appeared was not chaotic, it was perfect. A demonstration of skill and understanding, not destruction. The arena floor had reacted to her insight, her careful guidance, and her control. The laughter and confidence of the cadets vanished. They stared at Arya, wide-eyed. Even the instructors paused, nodding slightly in approval. Arya didn't gloat. She simply smiled faintly and helped a cadet who had stumbled regain their balance. That simple act of kindness, combined with her unmatched skill, created a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The mocking tone of the other cadets faded, replaced by curiosity and respect. They had assumed the floor would challenge only their strength, but Arya had shown them that intelligence, observation, and subtle control were far more powerful. The drill ended, and cadets were asked to discuss their approaches. The aliens spoke of energy, strength, speed, and bold maneuvers. Arya listened, and then calmly described her method. She spoke of the floor's rhythm, of small adjustments, of using energy to guide the tiles rather than force them. The cadets listened, some nodding, some skeptical, but all intrigued. During the break, Arya wandered through the hall, observing other cadets practicing in smaller arenas. She noticed patterns in their movements, small mistakes repeated by several of them. She made mental notes, thinking of ways to help them improve, not because she wanted to show superiority, but because she knew that learning together made everyone stronger. One of the alien cadets, a tall creature with shimmering wings, approached her cautiously. "Your method. It's strange, but it works. How did you know the floor would respond that way?" Arya smiled. "It's not about knowing. It's about watching and listening. The floor talks to anyone who is willing to pay attention." The alien tilted his head, confused but intrigued. "Listening? To a floor?" "Yes," Arya replied simply. "Every challenge has a language. You just need to learn to understand it." As the day progressed, the cadets moved through more exercises. Each time, Arya's calm, thoughtful approach gave her an edge. Others relied on raw power or flashy displays. She relied on observation, strategy, and precision. Slowly, the initial arrogance of the cadets began to fade. They had laughed at Earth training, but now they were beginning to understand that there was a depth they had underestimated. By the end of the day, Arya stood in the center of the arena, looking at the floor that had once seemed simple and easy. She felt a quiet satisfaction. She had shown her capabilities, yes. But more importantly, she had shown that understanding, patience, and insight could overcome assumptions. The instructors gathered the cadets for a final review. Today you saw that what appears easy may be far from it. You saw that power without control is nothing. Observe, adapt, and respect the tools and environment around you. That is what Earth training teaches. Arya listened silently. Around her, cadets whispered among themselves. Respect was forming where arrogance had once stood. Some looked at her with admiration, others with determination. They wanted to understand, to reach her level. Not out of rivalry, but out of genuine curiosity. As the sun set over the academy, painting the sky with colors that seemed almost unreal, Arya walked back to her quarters. She felt calm, focused, ready for whatever the next day would bring. The other cadets had learned their first lesson. Earth training was never easy, and humanity had a subtle way of teaching lessons that others rarely anticipated. And in the quiet of her room, Arya allowed herself a small smile. She knew this was only the beginning. The floor of the arena had given her a chance to show what humans could do, not just in strength or skill, but in creativity, focus, and harmony. Tomorrow, the challenges would grow harder. The cadets would push themselves further, and she would continue to prove that Earth training was more than a test of ability, it was a test of wisdom. The hum of the academy continued into the night, steady and unending. And somewhere in the energy currents of the arena, the floor remembered Arya's touch, ready to respond again to her insight, her skill, and the quiet power of a human who understood it fully. The next morning, the academy's halls buzzed with energy. Cadets from all over the galaxy gathered again in the central arena, their faces a mixture of excitement, determination, and a little apprehension. The events of the previous day had left a mark. Whispers followed Arya wherever she went. Not mockery this time, but curiosity. Some cadets tried to imitate her movements. Others studied the floor intently, hoping to find some secret she had not yet revealed. Arya walked in quietly, taking her place near the edge of the arena. The instructors entered shortly after, their presence commanding attention without a single raised voice. One of them, a tall humanoid with an energy crest running down her back, addressed the cadets. Today, your challenge is not only to navigate the arena, but to do so under shifting conditions. The floor will not remain stable. Panels will rise, fall, and move without warning. You must adapt, communicate, and find balance. Remember, brute strength will not suffice. The cadets murmured. Some of the aliens exchanged confident glances, their earlier skepticism returning. Shifting floor? One said. This is still nothing compared to my planet's training fields. Arya didn't reply. She simply focused on the arena, sensing the faint currents of energy beneath the tiles. The floor hummed quietly, almost as if it were alive, waiting for cadets to step upon it and reveal its hidden rules. When the starting signal came, cadets leapt forward. The floor responded immediately, tiles tilting, rising, and sliding unpredictably. Many cadets stumbled, their momentum sending them off balance. Some used bursts of energy to correct themselves, but the effort often made the panels shift even more unpredictably. The arena, once seemingly simple, had become a challenge that required thinking ahead, anticipating changes, and acting with precision. Arya stepped forward. Her first movements were calm, deliberate, almost unhurried. She didn't rush. She placed one foot on a floating tile and extended her hand slightly, feeling the energy beneath her. The panels responded to her touch, rising and lowering in smooth harmony with her steps. Other cadets watched in amazement. Where they had struggled, Arya moved with ease, adapting instantly to changes in the floor. Her feet seemed to float just above the panels, never slipping, never hesitating. As she approached a particularly difficult section, the floor shifted more violently. Panels rose and fell in quick succession, forming gaps too wide for a single step. A few cadets attempted to leap across, only to land awkwardly, triggering energy alerts that forced them back to the start. Arya paused for a moment, observing the pattern. She noticed that the energy beneath the panels followed a rhythm. Subtle, but consistent. She took a deep breath, letting her focus flow through her body and into the floor. With a single motion, she shifted her weight and directed a pulse of energy outward. The effect was immediate and dramatic. A series of tiles lifted in perfect alignment, forming a bridge across the gap. At the same time, panels that had been unstable stabilized themselves beneath the other cadets who were struggling, giving them a chance to continue. The movement was precise, controlled, and elegant, like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Gasps filled the arena. Cadets paused, staring at Arya in disbelief. She had not only navigated the floor herself, but had subtly guided others without even touching them. The instructors exchanged nods, impressed by the skill and ingenuity on display. The tall alien with wings who had approached her yesterday floated closer, a mix of awe and curiosity on his face. How are you doing that?" he asked, almost whispering. Arya smiled faintly. "I'm listening," she said simply. "The floor speaks if you pay attention." The alien tilted his head, still confused but intrigued. Around them, other cadets struggled with another section of the arena, where the panels formed uneven, floating steps. Energy pulses shot up unexpectedly, and many cadets froze, unsure of how to proceed. Arya stepped forward again, her focus absolute. She let her intuition guide her hands, directing the energy in precise streams. The panels responded instantly. One by one, they shifted into a pattern that allowed her to cross safely. But she didn't stop there. She extended her influence to nearby cadets, subtly redirecting energy to stabilize tiles for them as well. The most dramatic moment came when she reached the center of the arena. A large, circular panel was unstable, tilting dangerously. Cadets who stepped on it would fall, triggering alarms that could reset the entire section. Arya paused, studying the movement carefully. Then, with a controlled push of her energy, she lifted the panel gently, rotating it just enough to lock into place. But she didn't stop there. She extended her focus outward, and the surrounding panels responded, splitting apart slightly, and then reforming into a smooth, connected surface. The arena floor seemed to ripple beneath her, controlled entirely by her skill and understanding. Cadets watching from the edges stared in amazement. Some whispered, excitedly, "That's incredible. I've never seen anything like it." Arya didn't smile. She continued moving forward, guiding other cadets who were hesitant or struggling. Each step she took was calculated, each motion intentional. The floor, once unpredictable and chaotic, became a display of harmony and precision under her guidance. By the time she reached the far end of the arena, the challenge had transformed entirely. What had been a difficult, shifting floor was now a clear path, stabilized and aligned perfectly. Cadets who had been stuck or fearful now crossed safely, their confidence slowly returning. The instructors called the cadets together for a midday review. "What you witnessed is not just skill," one instructor said. "It is understanding, focus, and adaptation. The human cadet demonstrates what many overlook, that observation and subtle control can accomplish more than raw strength or flashy energy." The cadets exchanged glances. Some looked at Arya with admiration, others with determination. They wanted to learn, to match her abilities. The tall alien with wings floated beside her quietly, nodding. "I don't understand it fully yet," he admitted, "but I want to try." Arya inclined her head. "Pay attention," she said. "The floor has a rhythm. If you listen, it will guide you." The afternoon challenge was even more difficult. The arena introduced moving barriers, floating energy currents, and unpredictable shifts in gravity. Cadets had to move quickly while maintaining balance, redirecting energy, and completing objectives without triggering resets. Many struggled immediately, relying on force to push through or trying to jump across moving platforms. Failures were frequent, and the frustration was visible. Arya moved calmly. She let the floor guide her, sensing the energy flows beneath her. She adjusted her stance, shifted her hands slightly, and used minimal bursts of energy to influence the panels. She didn't need to force the floor. She cooperated with it. When a barrier moved unexpectedly, she anticipated its path and stepped lightly to avoid it. When a panel tilted dangerously, she stabilized it with a subtle pulse of energy. The other cadets watched in awe. Slowly, some began to mimic her techniques, moving more thoughtfully, observing patterns, and trying to work with the floor rather than against it. Small successes appeared, and murmurs of excitement spread through the arena. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. A large, central section of the arena began to shift violently, creating a gap that seemed impossible to cross. Cadets hesitated, some frozen in fear, others attempting risky leaps. Arya approached, calm and focused. She paused for a heartbeat, feeling the energy beneath her, sensing the rhythm and patterns. Then she moved. Her hands extended. Her focus deepened, and the floor responded. The central tiles split apart with a smooth, controlled motion, creating a visible fissure. Energy rippled across the panels as the fissure widened and reformed simultaneously, forming a stable path. The floor had reacted to her understanding, splitting and reshaping itself with precision. Gasps echoed through the arena. Cadets stopped in their tracks, unable to look away. Even the instructors were impressed by the elegance and control of the move. For the first time, the true depth of Earth training and of humanity's ingenuity was on full display. The tall alien floated closer, eyes wide. It split the floor," he whispered. "Yes," Arya said simply. "But it wasn't just power. It was understanding, observation, and timing." By the end of the day, cadets gathered to discuss the lessons. Arya's move had left a lasting impression. They had learned that strength alone was not enough, that rushing or showing off would often lead to failure, and that the ability to observe and adapt was more valuable than anything they had brought from their home worlds. The instructors praised the cadets' progress, but emphasized one point repeatedly. Humanity's approach may seem subtle, even simple. But simplicity is not weakness. Precision, patience, and harmony can achieve extraordinary results. Observe, listen, and act with care. As the cadets left the arena, many of them glanced at Arya with newfound respect. Some approached her, asking questions, wanting to learn her methods. She responded patiently, offering guidance and insight, never boasting, never belittling. That night, as the academy quieted down, Arya walked back to her quarters. She felt a quiet satisfaction. She had not only proven her skill but had shown that humans had a unique approach, one that relied on creativity, focus, and cooperation with the environment. The arena, now calm and still, seemed to hold the memory of her presence. The floor that had split and reformed with precision seemed almost alive, as if it had learned from her touch. And somewhere deep in the currents of energy beneath the panels, the academy itself seemed to hum in approval, ready for the challenges that tomorrow would bring. Arya smiled softly. She knew that the next tests would be harder. The cadets would push themselves further, and the instructors would introduce new surprises. But she was ready. Earth training was never easy, and that was exactly the point. It was not about force, it was about understanding, insight, and the quiet strength of the mind. The next morning, the academy was alive with anticipation. The cadets had talked about Arya's skill the night before, and their excitement was mixed with determination. They had seen what humans could do, not just through strength, but with thought, focus, and patience. Now, they were eager to test themselves against the arena once more, and perhaps, to learn from her. The instructors gathered the cadets in the central hall. One of them, a tall humanoid with flowing energy markings across their skin, addressed the group. "Today, the arena will test your ingenuity. Its panels will not only shift, but they will create obstacles and puzzles that require cooperation, strategy, and timing. You will work in teams. Remember, the strongest alone does not always succeed. Coordination is key." Cadets whispered among themselves, some exchanging worried looks. For the first time, they felt the weight of the challenge. Even the tallest, most confident aliens paused, realizing that the arena was no longer something to dominate with raw skill. It demanded creativity, insight, and teamwork. Arya stepped into the arena quietly, her calm presence immediately drawing attention. She did not rush. She observed the floor, noting the subtle energy currents beneath the panels. The arena seemed to react differently today, as if aware that cadets had learned a little from yesterday. Tiles shifted more rapidly. Platforms appeared and disappeared, and energy pulses coursed unpredictably through the floor. The challenge had grown. Her team consisted of 3 cadets. The tall, silver-skinned alien with wings, a small, floating creature with large, luminous eyes, and a broad, strong humanoid with 2 sets of arms. Each of them brought different abilities, but none had yet mastered the art of reading the arena. Arya smiled faintly, realizing that today she would need not only her own skills but her ability to guide others. The starting signal sounded, and the cadets moved forward. The floor responded immediately, tilting, shifting, and sending panels in unpredictable patterns. Many cadets struggled, some using bursts of strength to stay upright, only to lose balance again. Others froze, uncertain how to proceed. Arya moved calmly, her feet guided by observation and intuition. She reached a section where floating platforms hovered in irregular patterns. The small, luminous-eyed cadet attempted to leap across, faltering and sliding dangerously. Arya extended her hands slightly, channeling a subtle pulse of energy. The panels shifted, forming a stable bridge beneath him. The other cadets stared in amazement. She wasn't just moving herself, she was helping others navigate without touching them directly. Her movements were quiet and precise, her focus absolute. As they progressed, the floor became more complex. Panels would rise and fall in sequence, energy currents shot upward, and floating obstacles blocked paths unpredictably. The team needed coordination, and many faltered at first. Arya paused briefly, then demonstrated a small technique. She moved in a rhythm, shifting her hands in subtle patterns that influenced the tiles ahead. The tall alien with wings tried to mimic her movements, tilting his body and extending his energy streams. Slowly, he began to anticipate shifts in the floor. Moving more smoothly, the broad humanoid adjusted his steps carefully, and the small, luminous-eyed cadet learned to wait for the right moment to leap, rather than rushing. By mid-arena, the challenge had escalated further. A series of panels formed a complex puzzle, a rotating hexagonal formation suspended above a gap. Cadets needed to step onto the right panels in sequence to cross safely. Many hesitated, unsure of the correct order. Some attempted guesses, triggering resets that sent panels spinning erratically. Arya studied the puzzle carefully. She noticed a pattern in the rotation, a rhythm that repeated subtly. Extending her focus, she shared her insight with her team, not by words, but through subtle energy guidance. The panels stabilized, and the sequence revealed itself. One by one, the cadets crossed safely. Following her lead, other cadets in the arena watched silently. They could see the difference between those who relied on force and those who observed, adapted, and moved with understanding. Whispers spread. "She's controlling the floor. Look at the way she guides them without touching anything. This is more than skill, it's intelligence." Arya reached a particularly tricky section near the center of the arena. A circular platform floated above a deep energy trench. Panels around it shifted rapidly, some rising, some tilting dangerously. One misstep could trigger a reset for the entire section. The team hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Arya placed a foot on a stable tile and extended her hands, feeling the energy of the floor. She noticed that the surrounding panels had a hidden rhythm, a slight delay that allowed them to shift in sequence, if guided carefully. With a subtle pulse of energy, she synchronized the panels, causing the circular platform to rotate into alignment with the others. The other cadets followed, moving with confidence where they had struggled before. The small, luminous-eyed cadet floated carefully across. The broad humanoid stepped steadily, and the tall winged alien balanced precisely. The platform, once chaotic and threatening, became a clear path thanks to Arya's control. The climax of the challenge arrived when a large section of the arena suddenly shifted violently. Panels split apart, creating gaps that seemed impossible to cross. Energy pulses shot upward in unpredictable patterns. Many cadets froze, overwhelmed by the complexity. Arya stepped forward. She paused, feeling the energy beneath her, sensing the flow of the arena like a river she could navigate. Then, with a deliberate motion, she extended her hands and directed a controlled pulse outward. The panels split and reformed simultaneously, creating stable paths across the fissures. The floor rippled like water, but every movement was controlled and precise. Cadets gasped. They had never seen anything like it. Some tried to mimic her, but without her focus and understanding, their attempts were chaotic. The arena had responded only to her skill, her patience, and her insight. The instructors observed closely, nodding in approval. One commented quietly, "This is the essence of Earth training. Not strength, not speed, but observation, understanding, and harmony with the environment." Arya guided her team through the final section. Panels shifted in rapid, unpredictable sequences, but she anticipated every movement. The team worked together, following her subtle cues, and completed the challenge flawlessly. Cadets who had watched in doubt were now filled with respect and curiosity. When the exercise ended, the instructors gathered the cadets for review. Today, you witnessed something extraordinary. Strength alone could not have completed this arena. Observation, timing, coordination, and creativity were required. The human cadet demonstrated all of these traits. Learn from this example. The cadets whispered among themselves. Many approached Arya, asking questions about her methods. Eager to understand the subtle techniques she had used, she answered patiently, showing small ways to observe the floor's rhythm, how to move in sync with energy flows, and how to anticipate changes without forcing the environment. Even the most confident cadets admitted their previous arrogance had been misplaced. They had assumed Earth training would be simple, that humans would be easy to surpass. Now, they realized that humans had a unique approach, one that combined intelligence, focus, and insight in ways few could imagine. Arya walked back to her quarters that evening, tired but satisfied. The day had been challenging, not because of physical exertion, but because it required constant attention and precision. She had helped her team, inspired the other cadets, and shown once again that humans were capable of extraordinary things through ingenuity rather than sheer force. As she entered her room, she glanced back at the arena. The floor, now quiet, seemed almost alive, holding the memory of her movements. Panels still hummed faintly, as if echoing the subtle pulses she had sent through them. She smiled softly. Tomorrow, the challenges would grow even more difficult. The instructors had many surprises planned, and the cadets would be pushed further. But Arya was ready. She knew that what made humans remarkable was not raw strength, not flashy displays, but patience, observation, and creativity. Every challenge was an opportunity to demonstrate that. In the quiet of the night, the academy rested, but the lessons of the day lingered. Cadets would talk about Arya's moves for years to come, recounting how she split the arena floor, guided her team, and transformed a dangerous, chaotic arena into a controlled, elegant performance. And somewhere in the currents of energy beneath the panels, the arena remembered her touch, waiting for her to return and demonstrate even more of the power of human ingenuity. The morning sun bathed the academy in a golden glow, signaling the beginning of the final training day. Excitement and nervous energy filled the halls. Word of Arya's remarkable skill had spread through the academy. Cadets whispered about the human who had split the arena floor, guided others without touching them, and demonstrated a control that seemed almost impossible. Some were eager to learn. Others were determined to surpass her. Yet everyone knew that today would be the ultimate test. The instructors gathered all cadets in the central arena, which had been transformed for the final challenge. The floor was more complex than ever before, filled with moving panels, energy currents, rotating platforms, and shifting barriers. Even the most confident cadets felt a surge of uncertainty. This was not just about skill or strength. It was about observation, teamwork, and creativity. One of the instructors, their voice calm but commanding, addressed the cadets. Today's challenge is the culmination of all you have learned. You will work in teams, navigating a series of obstacles that will test your coordination, insight, and patience. The arena will change continuously, and success requires cooperation, not dominance. Remember, the lessons of Earth training are subtle. Strength alone will not carry you through. Arya entered the arena quietly, her calm presence immediately drawing attention. Her team consisted of 3 cadets: the tall, silver-skinned alien with wings, the small, floating creature with luminous eyes, and the broad, strong humanoid with 2 sets of arms. Each of them had learned much under Arya's guidance over the past days, but the final challenge would require them to use every lesson they had absorbed. The starting signal sounded, and the arena responded instantly. Panels shifted, energy currents rose and fell, and platforms rotated unpredictably. Many cadets hesitated, unsure how to begin. Some attempted forceful leaps or flashy energy moves, only to stumble or trigger resets. The arena, more alive than ever, tested everyone's patience and focus. Arya moved calmly, her steps deliberate, her hands extended subtly to influence the panels around her. She guided her team, sending gentle pulses of energy that stabilized the floor and helped them anticipate movements. The tall alien followed her lead, moving with precision rather than rushing. The small, luminous-eyed cadet timed each leap perfectly, and the broad humanoid adjusted his weight carefully to maintain balance. As they approached the central section, the challenge intensified. A series of floating hexagonal platforms formed a complex puzzle over a deep energy trench. Each platform tilted or rotated unpredictably, and energy pulses surged from below at irregular intervals. Cadets who attempted to force their way across fell back, frustrated and exhausted. Arya paused, observing the rhythm of the panels. She noticed subtle delays and patterns, the hidden language of the floor that only careful observation could reveal. With a quiet motion, she extended her hands and sent a precise pulse through the energy currents. The platforms shifted into alignment, forming a stable path. Her team followed flawlessly, moving as one, guided not by brute strength but by insight and cooperation. Other cadets watched, some in awe, some in disbelief. They could see the difference between forceful action and thoughtful guidance. Whispers spread. She's not just controlling the floor. She's communicating with it. This is more than skill. It's understanding. The next obstacle was even more complex. A rotating ring of panels surrounded a central energy column, which pulsed unpredictably. Cadets had to time their steps perfectly while adjusting for the rotation. Many attempted to jump across, failing repeatedly. Arya studied the rotation, noting its speed, angle, and energy patterns. She moved first, stepping lightly, guiding her team through subtle energy adjustments. Each cadet followed, moving in perfect harmony with the arena's rhythm. Midway through the arena, a new challenge appeared. Panels began to rise and fall at different speeds, creating multiple layers. Some sections were high, requiring careful balance. Others were low and unstable. Cadets needed to work together, coordinating every movement. Arya's team paused, taking in the new pattern. With a small gesture, she communicated a sequence of movements. Not with words, but through subtle energy pulses. The team responded immediately. The tall alien shifted his weight to stabilize a panel. The small floating cadet used his light frame to adjust a neighboring tile. And the broad humanoid applied precise pressure to keep another section balanced. The combination of their actions, guided by Arya's insight, allowed them to navigate the multi-layered floor without triggering resets. The arena seemed to respond to their cooperation. Panels aligned, energy pulses slowed, and the central energy column synchronized with their movements. The cadets felt a sense of rhythm, a connection with the floor that transcended force or instinct. This was Earth training at its highest form, an exercise in harmony, focus, and intelligence. Then came the final test. A large section of the arena split into a vast fissure, with energy surges threatening to destabilize the surrounding panels. Cadets hesitated, unsure how to cross. Arya stepped forward calmly. She extended her hands and focused her energy, feeling the floor's currents as if they were an extension of herself. Slowly, she guided the panels to shift and realign, creating a safe path. The fissure widened and reformed, a controlled ripple that astonished everyone watching. Her team followed carefully, moving as one unit, each step precise. The tall alien's wings fluttered to maintain balance. The small, luminous-eyed cadet timed each leap perfectly, and the broad humanoid adjusted each landing with careful coordination. The arena, once chaotic and threatening, had become a stage for their combined skill and ingenuity. Cadets from other teams stopped to watch, captivated by the display. They saw not only the humans' remarkable ability but also the power of teamwork and guidance. Many realized that Earth training was never about individual glory. It was about understanding, cooperation, and the quiet strength of intellect and focus. As Arya and her team approached the final section, the arena introduced one last surprise. Panels began to rise and fall faster. Energy currents pulsed with irregular patterns, and floating obstacles moved unpredictably. It was a test of everything they had learned. Many cadets faltered under the pressure. But Arya's team moved with calm determination. Each step was guided by observation, each motion deliberate, each action coordinated. Finally, they reached the center of the arena. Arya paused for a moment, sensing the energy currents, noting the rhythm and flow of the floor. With a subtle movement, she sent a final pulse through the panels. The floor responded instantly, splitting and reforming in a perfect, controlled wave. The fissures expanded and closed simultaneously, creating a stable surface for the final step. The team crossed together, completing the challenge flawlessly. Cadets who had watched in awe broke into applause. While the instructors nodded in approval, one of them spoke, their voice carrying over the arena. "You have demonstrated what humanity has long known, that creativity, observation, and focus can achieve what brute force cannot. You have worked as a team, guided by intelligence and insight, and in doing so, you have mastered the ultimate challenge of Earth training." Arya's team smiled, not with pride but with quiet satisfaction. They had succeeded through patience, cooperation, and understanding, not by competing, not by overpowering, but by working together. Cadets from other teams approached, asking questions, eager to learn the subtle techniques that had made such a difference. Arya shared her insights patiently, showing small ways to observe patterns, anticipate movements, and cooperate with the environment. The academy itself seemed to hum with approval. Panels shifted gently, energy currents flowed smoothly, and the arena glowed with a soft light, reflecting the harmony that Arya and her team had achieved. It was a reminder that true mastery was not about dominance, but about understanding, adaptation, and collaboration. By the end of the day, the cadets gathered outside the arena. Many spoke excitedly about the lessons they had learned, about the importance of observation and cooperation. Even the most confident aliens admitted that they had underestimated the subtle power of human ingenuity. They had mocked Earth training initially, but now they saw it for what it truly was: a discipline that cultivated intelligence, creativity, and harmony. Arya walked through the crowd quietly, answering questions and offering guidance. She did not boast, did not flaunt her skill, and did not seek admiration. Her focus was on helping others see the possibilities within themselves, to recognize that success came not from raw power, but from understanding and collaboration. As the sun set over the academy, casting long shadows across the training grounds, Arya stood quietly, looking at the arena. The floor, once chaotic and shifting, was calm and still. Panels glowed faintly, as if remembering the movements, energy flows, and pulses that had passed through them. It had been a day of challenge, discovery, and inspiration, and the arena seemed to hum with quiet approval. The other cadets gathered around her, their faces a mixture of admiration, respect, and curiosity. They had learned something profound: that humans could achieve extraordinary things not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by observing, thinking, and cooperating. Arya had shown them the value of patience, creativity, and focus. In the quiet of the evening, as cadets retired to their quarters and the academy settled into calm, Arya reflected on the journey. She had guided her team, inspired her peers, and demonstrated the subtle power of human ingenuity. The challenges had been difficult, but they had been rewarding. The lessons of Earth training were clear. Strength alone was never enough. Understanding, insight, and harmony could move mountains, or in this case, split an arena floor. And somewhere beneath the surface of the panels, the energy of the arena pulsed softly, carrying the memory of Arya's touch. It waited for the next day, for the next cadet to step forward, for the next challenge to unfold. But for now, the academy rested, filled with cadets inspired by the quiet brilliance of a human who had shown them that ingenuity and focus could achieve what others thought impossible. Arya smiled softly, knowing that the journey had only begun. Humanity had once again proven that true strength was not just in power, but in creativity, patience, and the courage to see the world in new ways. The Academy had seen it, her team had seen it, and soon, all cadets across the galaxy would learn it too.